15 years and 10 days ago, India last played a major final at Lord's and beat England to win the NatWest Series 2002, one of India's biggest modern-day victories. Go further back in time, and on the 25th of June 1983, at the same iconic venue, came a result that announced India as a cricketing force, as couples Devils were crowned world champions. Today, the home of cricket hosts possibly the second biggest game in Indian cricket history. India take on England in the final of the ICC Women's World Cup 2017. Hello and welcome to this special presentation on World is One News. My name is Yash and we are building up to the tryst with destiny for the Indian women's team. With us on the show on this momentous occasion, a friend of WION's joins us all the way from Christchurch via Skype. Former New Zealand cricketer Chris Harris knows a thing or two about winning ICC global events. Former India captain Mamatha Maben, who led India to Asia Cup glory in 2004, joins us live from Bengaluru. Also from Bengaluru via Skype is ESPNcricinfo senior editor Gaurav Kalra, who apart from having covered Indian cricket for years, also held a media training session for this team ahead of its departure to England. Mamatha, I'll come to you first. You've been part of the journey of the Indian women's cricket team. Today truly is one of the biggest days in its history.
A path-breaking, I must say. In fact, I mean, this has galvanized the whole country like nobody had ever imagined. So definitely it's a truly great day in women's cricket, for India especially.
Chris, a big day for India, and it comes at the end of a World Cup which has possibly been the biggest event in women's cricket history. We will talk later on the show about the sheer numbers, the magnitude of this event as it's transpired in England. But this truly is the biggest occasion, what you live for, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's a huge occasion for India. I mean, I'm sort of secretly sitting here hoping that they win because they've been phenomenal throughout this tournament. I mean, it's been a brilliant tournament. As you said, there's been so many records broken and just the viewership as well. I mean, I think they think there's going to be something like an 80% higher global viewership than they expected, which they got in 2013. So it's a massive occasion for the Indian side. It's a sellout at Lord's. I think there was 26,500 tickets pre-sold and it only holds 28,000. So look, they've been brilliant throughout this tournament. I'm sure they're going to go in, as I said, give their very, very best, and I just hope they stay relaxed and their senior players help get them through.
Gaurav Kalra, you were with this team before it departed for England. You held that session, the media training session for them ahead of its departure. Would you have called at that point that this unit would go all the way and create history, as they already have, irrespective of the result today?
No, Yash, it wasn't in the realm of imagination that India would actually go ahead and be very strong contenders on the final day to win the tournament. Yes, they were. They had a very good run in one-day cricket off late. Remember that, Yash, they had notched up a series of wins. I think they'd won 16 in a row. But a lot of those wins had come against lower-ranked teams. But in this tournament, as we've already talked about earlier, Yash, what India have done well is that they've beaten stronger teams. They've beaten England before in this tournament. That was the first game for them here. They've also beaten New Zealand and Australia in what were knockout games. Both those teams are also ranked above them in the ICC ranking. So they go into this game very much riding a wave. What is different slightly though, Yash, and I'm sure you'll bring this to your viewers, is that England have actually won the toss and they are batting first, and India are not used to that in this World Cup so far. The only game they've won chasing has been won against the West Indies when Smriti Mandhana got that 100. So they will have to do it in a different way. But I think the form that they're batting is in, Raut, Mithali Raj, Harmanpreet, as well as Veda Krishnamurthy, they will fancy getting that chase done later on in the day. So I'm sure Mamatha has some thoughts on this, but that is the first bit of the equation which hasn't quite fallen in the way that India would have liked.
Yes, India have lost the toss, which goes against what they wanted to do through the campaign. But it's an unchanged team. There were slight doubts about Harmanpreet Kaur's fitness. Clearly, that's been addressed. She plays. How do India address their mindset, knowing that they now have to chase, which is something they haven't been particularly comfortable doing?
I do agree. I do agree with Gaurav on that we've won most of our matches chasing, having batted first. But that should not put us back, because knowing the mindset of the Indian team, now I'm just banking that we can restrict them to somewhere between 225, 240 and then the game is ours. If it goes beyond that, I still, the kind of form Harry is in and Veda Krishnamurti, I still think 260 is gettable. Beyond that will then become tough. So our first target now, having to field first, will be to try and restrict them as less as possible.
Yes, and Chris Harris, you were with us just a little over a month ago when there was another big tournament final where the toss became an issue of contention. You do always look to bat first. But as Mamatha is pointing out, this is a team which goes in with a lot of confidence. Confidence which comes out of having knocked out 6-time world champions in the manner they did just 3 days ago. So how important, how vital do you see the toss as a factor?
Yeah, look, I think there's no doubt that we all agree that if India had won the toss, that they would have batted first, because that's what they've done so well through the tournament. They've managed to put on big totals and put pressure on the opposition. But look, I think with the batting lineup that India have got, they've, for me, have got 2 bites of the cherry. I think if they bowl really well and restrict England, as we said, to 220, 240, I think they make the job a lot easier for themselves. If England do go beyond that, I still believe that India have got the players and the batswomen that are in form in this tournament to pretty much chase down anything that England can put up. But obviously we want to try and make it that India field and bowl well, restrict England to around 230, 240 and make that job a lot easier for themselves. But yeah, it's certainly something they are not as comfortable, but I still think they've got the capability and the players to chase down pretty much anything from the form they've showed in this tournament.
Gaurav, we're talking a lot about the Indian batswomen and how they now, of course, possess the confidence of chasing down whatever target might come in front of them in a few hours from now. But the bowlers have done particularly well as well. If you look at the wicket-taking charts, there are 4 Indian bowlers who occupy the top 15 as opposed to 0 for England. When these sides last met a month ago in the tournament opener, the bowlers did do a good job at strangling that English batting lineup, and they were also particularly exceptional in the field. There were 4 run-outs in that game.
Yes, India's bowlers have done well, but a lot of those have been spin bowlers. What India will be encouraged by, Yash, is the form that was shown by both Shikha Pandey as well as Jhulan Goswami in that semi-final. Remember, Goswami, she probably bowled the ball of the tournament to get Meg Lanning, the one that kind of came in and then left after pitching and hit the top of her off stump. Shikha Pandey's spell was also extremely important, and these are huge positives for India. It is at Lord's on a fresh track, and again I'm curious to hear what the cricketers think of that, because you know, once India gets first use of that wicket with the ball, it may not be such a bad toss to lose, because if the ball does nibble around a little bit, it is the morning in England. There should be some assistance for them, and there are showers predicted for later on in the day, so the team chasing is always benefiting from a Duckworth-Lewis situation. So this may in some ways work out to be a slight advantage for India, especially if Jhulan and Shikha can get it right with the new ball at the start. You have to remember one other thing, Yash. In women's cricket, there is only 1 ball that is used, unlike men's cricket. So that 1 ball, with the new ball, the impact that the seamers can make is going to be much more important than in men's cricket. Also because as the ball gets older, your spinners get into play a lot more because you are using just that 1 new ball.
And Chris Harris, that becomes a very important factor as to whatever transpires over the next 3 hours as England bat first in this final. Because this English batting lineup, there's quite a similarity between the English women team and the English men's team. If you look at it, the women too are the most rapid scorers in the game. They've scored at 5.79 through the tournament, which is comfortably the highest. They have at least 3 batsmen off their top 7 who strike at over 100, which is huge in the women's game. What do the Indian bowlers look to do to try and stop that threat?
Yeah, that's right, Yash. I think Gaurav makes a great point that, to me, you wonder where England have batted first, because, I mean, obviously the old adage that runs on the board in the final are obviously so important. But I also think they may have batted first because they're a bit nervous about what this Indian side's capable of. And as Gaurav said, if there's a bit of rain in the air, this could play right into Indian hands. And with it being a fresh wicket, there just may be a little bit of seed movement for the likes of Goswami, who's obviously the world record in one-day cricket for wickets for women. You know, if she can get a couple of early wickets, well, who knows? But we know that if England get underway, as you said, they've got lots of firepower. the top order have got extremely high strike rates. So it's really important for India that they strike early, because if they don't, these women at the top, these English women have got, as you said, very good strike rates, and that's why it's really important that they strike early, field well, and try and restrict England to sort of 240 or less.
Mamatha, coming to you, these are some of the tangible factors which of course can be broken down, but there are a lot of intangibles which come into play in a World Cup final. Having been with the two veterans who are the only survivors from the last time India made a World Cup final in 2005, what is it that Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami are telling the youngsters as they approach what obviously is a very nerving scenario for any cricketer? It's what you dream of. It's a World Cup final at the home of cricket.
Knowing Mithali should have first told the girls that to go out and enjoy the game. The fact that we've actually reached the final is an achievement in itself. But having said that, if you remember when Mithali left India's shores, she had very clearly, categorically mentioned that this was the World Cup that we had to win for women's cricket back in India. It was the World Cup that we had to, make or break to propel things back in India, and that is at the back of her mind. And she knows that we've come so close. So no matter what, I know she would have spoken to all her players and made her see that how important this was, not for themselves, but cricket as whole in India and even internationally. Because like men's cricket, I also have a feeling that women's cricket revolves around India becoming a superpower. If India can generate enough eyeballs, this women's game will explode.
Gaurav, Kalra, a lot has changed in the women's game over the years. This World Cup, as both you and Chris mentioned at the top, has been revolutionary already. We are looking at it from an Indian perspective, but even from the game as a whole, there's been an increase in viewership upwards of 80% from the 2013 World Cup. In India alone, the numbers have gone up by more than 47% in terms of audience participation. Irrespective of what the result and irrespective of what it holds for Indian cricket, this has been a landmark moment for the women's game at large.
Oh yeah, there is no question about it. And I think one of the things that the ICC have also realized and done very well is that they have looked at the women's game as a separate entity to the men's game. We've had these experiments in the past where the women's game was kind of being made to piggyback on big occasions with the men's game. Have the World Cup, World T20 final, for instance, on the same day as the men's World T20 final, play it alongside. And I don't think that quite worked. And so the ICC have revisited that and actually now made the decision that the next two World T20 tournaments also will not coincide with the men's. They will be standalone tournaments. That's a very good move that they have made. I think the other thing that has happened besides the level of interest is the appreciation for the skills that women's cricket is now displaying. I think that it is no longer a sport that you look at and you say, right, we must support it because we have to. It is a CSR. It is something that we have to indulge. It actually is a sport that excites you, engages you, interests you because of the reasons why sport must. It is entertaining, it's fast-paced, it's got its stars with personalities. And I think those are the things that have really worked for women's cricket in this particular World Cup. The critical thing will be what happens tomorrow onwards, whatever the result of this game. Will the broadcasters, now that they have seen that women's cricket does deliver eyeballs for them, will they stay invested and will we see it repeatedly on our TV screens? Because like it or not, that's the oxygen that will keep women's cricket going.
Chris, that's a wonderful point Gaurav raises. Women's cricket is no longer about corporate social responsibility. Skill is a point he brings up, and you've seen that in immense display during this World Cup. You've seen an increase in six hitting, monster shots by batsmen, scoring rates increasing at a rate that hasn't been seen before in the women's game, fielding standards improving dimensionally. There is a lot which holds true to why this game is increasing the way it is for the women.
Yeah, I think the women's game has become a really exciting package, and it's an exciting event to watch. And I think it's been happening for the last couple of years. And this tournament, for me, is a perfect indication of that. If you look at some of the scores, we talked about Harbourdeep's 171 off 115 balls. You don't have to go back too many years, and you just wouldn't see an innings like that. And as you said, the amount of sixes, the amount of fours, the boundaries that have been hit, the women's game has just been taken to another level. And for me, as a a guy that obviously loves to watch cricket. It's just been taken to another level, and you've really, as you said, you've really got to appreciate some of the skills and in the fielding as well. I firmly believe that these women have become more professional. They've taken it to such another level that it's such an exciting game to watch. Hence the reason I think this World Cup has just broken all record numbers for viewership, you know, for hits on digital, on just basically records everywhere. And I think that's partly because it's a massive part that the women have played, that they're just playing such an exciting brand of cricket. And I just can't wait for this final to start.
Yes, no one in the world can wait for this final to start. I'm going to come to Mamatha Maben, former India captain. Mamatha, Chris and Gaurav both spoke about the evolution of the game. That has been reflected very well just by this Indian team as well. It's something that bodes very well for the future, but in the present, it gives them a confidence going into this final that they can take on an English side which has been a dominant force in the game, playing at home, and still be very confident that if they give their best, they will possibly come back with that historic title.
Most definitely, most definitely. I mean, like Gaurav and Chris was mentioning, the power hitting is going through the roof, and I can only see it progressing further and getting better. So that's one big positive. The fielding has excelled a lot of late, and then I think in the bowling department maybe there's still some room for improvement, but the batting and the fielding displays have actually taken up a couple of notches, I could say, from before. But like Chris said, the last 2-3 years we've been seeing women's cricket evolving, you know, and this is the pinnacle that it has reached. But I only hope that from here on, all concerned people seize this moment and propel it further and let this galvanize the whole momentum as such.
As far as today's game is concerned, Mamatha, for a lot of the viewers who are tuning in now, a lot of people weren't even aware of the World Cup before it was starting. Of course, with India doing what they have, people in the audience in this country has been awakened in a sense. So to all of them who are right now trying to figure out who are the players, who are the key performers, who hold fort to India's challenge for this historic title, as they are bowling first right now, let our viewers know on who are the bowlers who hold key for India to restrict England in this final.
Actually, as somebody who has followed this game, I think this time there have been standout performances, but the whole team as such has chipped in. At some point or the other, you will notice that somebody or the other has come out with an outstanding performance, which is a very, very telling factor. So I would not want to pick any one person, but if at all I feel Smriti is due a big knock, you know, I think it's round the corner. It should be coming hopefully today, given that England is her pet team. So I'm pinning my hopes on Smriti. And where the bowling is concerned, like Gaurav was saying, that the new ball bowlers will be very key, given that it's a totally different wicket. There is something in the wicket for the seamers. If we can nip them early, you know, I think that will be good signs for us.
Mamatha and Gaurav, I feel it would be almost incorrect to ask you guys for a prediction right now. We do have a neutral perspective for all the way from New Zealand, from Chris Harris. So Chris, let me throw the prediction question to you. Put on your predictor's hat. How do you see this final playing out?
I think it's going to be a terrific final. As I said, I've been so impressed with the way that India have played throughout this tournament, and I just don't think a lot of these ladies realise the platform that they're on today, that this is going to create for me a little bit of a revolution in India, and there's going to be a lot of young ladies out there that look up to these women playing on TV, and they're going to become like their heroes. So for me, this is going to take Indian cricket, especially women's cricket, to a new level. So I'd have to say, for me, I think India are the favourites.